In this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 tips that is going to improve your accuracy. And did you know 22LR is one of the most popular calibers for beginner shooters? Now, beginner shooters do struggle to hit the target accurately. Now, when I started shooting, I wish I knew these tips and tricks sooner. So if you want to improve your accuracy, make sure you stay tuned to this video. Tip number 1 is having a solid and stable bench. Now, a lot of people go to the range and look, sometimes you see people trying to shoot off their jackets, their lunch boxes, whatever piece of equipment that they're having around, and you can see them, they're all squirmy and wobbly and they just can't get settled. So it is really important to have a firm, fixed and stable shooting position to improve your accuracy. So perfecting your shooting position is also getting comfortable. Now, a lot of people that I see go to the range, they're trying to sit on a chair that is either too low or too high. They're wobbling around quite a fair bit. You just see they're visually uncomfortable. So when you're at the range, take your time, set yourself up correctly and get yourself into a comfortable position. If the range officer says, is anybody not ready to shoot? By all means, you can say, no, I'm not ready, until you're in a comfortable position. Tip number 2 is rifle maintenance. Take your time cleaning your rifle. Now, if you have a look at this, this patch is just being pushed through my rifle, and I haven't cleaned my rifle since the last match. I clean this rifle every single match, and you can see on this patch exactly how dirty it is after one match. So you imagine if you leave that amount of gunk and goo in there over 12 months, it can certainly foul up the barrel and decrease your accuracy. So always take your time, clean your rifle after every single match. Now, I'm curious, how often do you clean your rifle? Leave a comment down below. Having the right type of ammunition with you is vital, and it is extremely important for you to fine-tune your ammunition by going out and testing what ammunition your rifle likes. Now, some rifles might like CCI ammunition, some rifles might SK, Ely, 10X, R50s. There are so many different brands and manufacturers out there that different rifles may like. So when you're at the range, take your time, test your ammunition. For example, my Seiko P94S loves Ely match. Now, certain circumstances, it likes a little bit slower ammunition, around about the 1050 speed, 1052s, and on other circumstances, I like to shoot R50s out of that rifle. Now, if you have a look, in my ammo box, I have many different speeds. That way, when I'm at the range, I can actually fine-tune my rifle to the conditions with the right speed ammunition. Tip number 3 is keeping a logbook. Now, you'd be crazy to think, like most people just go out, shoot, have a bit of fun, and then forget about it. Keeping a logbook lets you look back on your successes and, of course, some of the areas that you may need to improve in. Some days you might see that you are very successful at the range, and that way in your logbook you can check across to see what ammunition you're using, the conditions, or any other information that you want to write down. So don't be afraid. My example of a logbook, I go through, write down my scores of the match, the ammunition I was using at that point of time, and I've recently just started taking notes of the conditions. That way I can look back and say, okay, well, Ely match 1050s worked really, really well on a windy day. And if I was shooting on a sunny, clear day, well, then I can look back on my records and say, hey, previous sunny, clear days, R50s worked the best. So having a look back on your ammunition makes it much more easier to plan for your competitions. Tip number 4 is understanding your environmental factors. So when you go to the range, take some wind flags, even if you need to use a metal pole and some surveyor's tape, hammer that pole into the ground, tie a bit of tape around it. You get a very basic wind indicator to be able to understand exactly where you're shooting, and then you can start holding over. Now, I don't know in America, but for example, here in Australia, a set of, I think they're around about 8 BRT flags. They're around about $800, which is on the very expensive side for a set of wind flags. But try to look for some other alternatives, such as a piece of steel, surveyor's tape. When you're at the target, you can put a bit of tape on the board to be able to see your wind, a little bit. There are many different options to be able to see where your wind is blowing. Another environmental factor is Mirage. Now, Mirage is an interesting little beast. Now, Mirage can show you lots of different things, such as whether you have a boil, an updraft, whether the wind's going left or right, and it also indicates speed. Now, Mirages are very difficult to shoot through. If you haven't seen one through a scope, it is like looking through a heat phase, and like the whole target is wobbling and carrying on, and you don't know whether you're exactly where your point of aim is, because that Mirage can make that target very, very difficult to see, especially when you're shooting out to distance, 200-300 meters. I've been on ranges where very strong Mirage has been at 50 meters, and to conquer that Mirage, we had to wind our scopes right back down to about 15 power. That way we could see through the Mirage, because when you're shooting 40 power scopes, trying to look through a Mirage sometimes is nearly next to impossible. So take your time, learn your environmental factors such as wind and Mirage. There's plenty of other videos on YouTube that show you exactly how to do that. But as I said, leave a comment if you'd like me to discuss further on that point. Now, my fifth point that I want to talk about is mental discipline. How often have you been to the range and you hear old mate down the end that might have missed his shot and go, oh my God, and flips off and swears and carries on. And then I nearly guarantee my next paycheck is that he misses the next shot, and he continues to escalate and escalate, and his whole day is ruined. So I highly recommend that you try some relaxation techniques. Now, when you're getting angered and frustrated and, the day is not going your way, your shooting accuracy is going to fall. So take your time at the range. Now, a lot of people I notice during competitions, they fly through their competition. Now, sometimes the conditions you need to do that, but most of the time, you have plenty of minutes to be able to think, watch the wind, watch the Mirage, watch other conditions to be able to make your shots. Now, most competitions, rounds are 10 minutes long. I'll see shooters go through that in 3 to 4 minutes. So take your time, relax, and it's going to be okay. By incorporating those tips that I have mentioned in this video, it'll allow you to improve your accuracy at the range. Now, if you want to improve your accuracy even more, check out this video on the SEB AR250.